Hey guys, welcome to OND DND, the TTRPG show here from Older and Dumber, where we teach you to be a little bit better at your games. I am Forever DM Hunter.
I play D&D. My name's Joey. I have one less tooth than I had the last time you saw me.
I've been playing D&D for 7 years with the same group on a mostly consistent schedule.
Even through COVID.
I'm Carter.
There we go.
I'm Carter.
We did it, guys. We got there.
Today, guys, which is perfect for this episode, we are talking about improvisation in TTRPGs and how to handle the unexpected. So first things first, and I think probably the person to really ask about this first and to define it very clearly to you guys with no problems and no speech, indifferences. Joey, can you define improvisation in TTRPGs?
Yeah, so when you sit down to play your TTRPG, it's not just dice rolling and fighting orcs and goblins. Sometimes you have to do a little act to tie those dungeons to those dragons.
Tie the dungeons to the dragons, okay.
Mm-hmm. And that's how you build your inter-party relationships. You do a little play acting. You do a little whose line is it anyway.
Okay, yeah.
The DM's like, hey, you're an elf and you're a dragonborn and you're in a dungeon together. What you guys want to talk about?
Nice.
And then you got to talk about something. And then the orcs and goblins come.
Yeah. Then they come.
Behold,
improvisation.
Usually they talk about come.
Yeah.
Carter, what's the emphasis on like the unpredictable nature of a player-driven choice story and how that sort of plays into improvisation?
It really defines like the magic of D&D, I feel like. It really I don't know, that's sort of the special part about D&D is the chaotic nature of where the story might go. So it's really important.
Okay. So, the biggest thing with improvisation is, improving, right? What improv is coming up with something.
Do you have the actual definition
of improv?
Yeah.
No, that probably would have been a good idea, though.
That would have been.
Can you go ahead and make it go across the bottom of the screen there?
Thanks, man.
But thank you. Improving essentially is playing along with what's going on and being able to come up with whatever you need in a moment's notice to continue the story or continue the narrative or talk your way out of something. It's essentially the same thing you do when you get pulled over by a police officer and have to explain to them why you were speeding. It's whatever you can come up with in the moment. Now, improv isn't always lying. Improv can be the truth. It's just what you're able to come up with in that exact moment. There's a lot of different details and things for improv that can help you. But what makes improv essential in TTRPG? I mean, the very first specific thing is how important is improv, or how is it used during a story where everything is unexpected because every player has a different idea. Every player wants to make a different decision. And with those decisions, you have a story in mind, but the story always gets messed up or changed because of dice rolls. How is it that we are able to create a story and stay on a topic, but everything get messed up because, of a dice roll, or it goes good than you expected or worse than you expected? Why is it so essential?
I feel like you can
that?
fail up.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of ways. That's a thing that DMs don't do as much as I think they should. All DMs. Up. So you failed the check. There's going to be consequences, but you might still succeed in moving the story along with what the DM had planned. So let's say we know we're supposed to get in this thing, but you failed a check in some way. So there's going to be consequences for that failed check, but it might not necessarily be you don't get through the door, or you don't move past this obstacle and we stand here for an hour being like, well, we all failed the check. I guess we're going home. But I feel like that's a really useful tool, is failing up.
So that's essentially one of the things where a DM has something planned and expects that you guys are going to succeed, but when you don't, doesn't have something planned for when you don't succeed.
Or you're running after that, or
so
in regular
to fail up
situations in D&D as well. It doesn't need it can be you're chasing after this guy, make a athletics check to keep chasing. Oh, you failed. you're going to keep chasing him, but you twisted your ankle. You have disadvantage on future checks, or you have minus 2 HP or something like that. Like there's consequences without making it so that the story stops.
Okay. So feeding off of that, Joey, basically saying that improvisation is essential to sort of help keep the story flowing and going forward and continuing. What's sort of your thoughts on that or experiences you've had with it?
I think as a player, you need to be flexible enough to expect that you're going to fail. And have a
always think every roll is going to be bad.
Yeah, have a scenario in mind for both a success and a failure, so that you can play into either.
Do you think that it should be more of the player's responsibility to always be thinking always thinking about what's going to happen if I succeed or fail, or should it be the DM's duty to always think about what's going to happen if you fail or succeed?
I think the DM's duty is to know their players and know who can flex out of a bad roll or flex out of a really good roll and who can't, and be there to, provide support for that player so that they can still have a good time if they don't have things go the way they expect.
I think I have a slightly different view.
Go ahead.
I think it's the DM's job.
That's the forum here.
I think it's like the DM's job to make sure the story doesn't stand still. Like, you should fail rolls, and like, I don't think you need to have something prepared. I feel like the DM should have like a way that you fail, like what I was saying earlier, like failing up, or just like some kind of consequence in failing. Like, we're gonna fail, and like, we shouldn't just stop the story, we should have it keep going. But like, the character should improv. It's a collaboration between the DM and the player, but the DM should have something in mind for when they fail.
Okay, so you're saying that you think it's the DM's responsibility to decide.
You're laying the track, we're just on it. We can react like to what you come up with.
Did you just say I railroad you?
There's still a story, like you're still going somewhere. What I'm saying is like, it's both. The DM should have like what happens after that failed check happens, like the consequences.
Sure.
And the player should be able to react to those consequences. I don't know. I don't think those were exactly aligned. I think we were pretty close, but I think there was some slightly different.
So yeah, I think essentially so you think that the DM should be prepared for each of those things, that it's not on the player to be responsible. Joey believes that, I think from what you're saying, is that each player is different and some of them will gladly take on that responsibility, but you think that it's not essentially the DM's responsibility to know what will happen for a succeed or fail, but to be able to know what each player is capable of and create scenarios for each of them based upon what their abilities are.
Yeah, because they're going to be able to improv into those situations more if you set them up for them. Like, if you toss the pitch, they're going to have something to hit. If you know
so it's
what
like
to
the
throw
DM
at each player.
So it's like the DM should pick and choose their best players for certain things. Yeah. Interesting.
But I mean, I also think too that in a situation where it's like, the locked door, if we fail the check, then we're gonna fail and be locked out of the story. It's not completely the DM's responsibility, because the players will come up with 1,000 harebrained schemes to get past the door.
I will say that is, and point and click. I mean, you guys just recently came to a door that you couldn't unlock because of arcane lock, but. So now that we're past that arc, and I will reveal this, but when I was explaining the door of, it's arcane, blah, 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 it cannot be unlocked by any non-magical means. And you guys were like, we could break in. I was like, okay, cool. They're like, let's go upstairs and break the floor. And I was like, oh.
You just wanted us to break the door?
You could have just broke the door. And it would have just left the lock.
Well, when you said sealed, traditionally speaking, right. When you see when sealed is used, I feel like there's like a barrier.
Mm-hmm. But I think that was a great example of the improv of knowledge. Like, what is put before you? What harebrained scheme can we come up with? And like Joey said, players a lot of times won't always let themselves. It's hard for them to let themselves be locked out of story. They'll always try and find something. But it's really about what the player's willpower is to continue to keep trying, I think. And if the DM doesn't continue to let them try, then they're really locked out. But I think that's another thing, is making the DM,
They're playing Dead by
playing it, yeah.
Daylight.
I thought there was like a fire alarm going off.
I think that if to have my 2 cents on the responsibilities, I don't know if the DM needs to specifically know the responsibility of every single check of what would happen if it's success or failure. That's where the improv come in. So you shouldn't be ready for it. I think the improv is essential for that. But what I do think is essential for a DM to have prepared is more than one opportunity to solve a problem. Not make things one-dimensional, make them 4-dimensional. Make it the ability that even though they fail at this, they can come up with other opportunities. But I think that also goes to Joey's thing of knowing the capabilities of your players.
I feel like the DM's role in the game as a player in the game, the DM is the arbiter, or like the arbiter. Like he's making sure they're making sure that the story is still going.
Sure.
That is their one job, is to make sure that the story is flowing.
Sure.
And like the story is being told. They're the narrator. They're making sure that it's flowing. So I feel like it's a collaboration, but the player shouldn't be expected to keep the story flowing. It is better when they are, and it is better when people are role playing. But you're the framework.
Okay. So let's go into, now that we've talked about improv and essentially, why it's important, where it should be, and why it's used, blah, 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 blah. Let's talk about techniques for effective improvisation. What sort of things do you guys do to create an effective improv style? There's a lot of things like the yes and, never saying no, yes and, always trying to move it forward. There's also things that like DMs will do, which is like recycling content, which is like, essentially, you guys didn't go through the arcane lock this time, but maybe I'll use that again, and next time you guys will solve it a different way. That's reusing or recycling something that you guys didn't solve the first time, but putting it in again to give you another chance. There's also things like DM secrets, where it's like, I had something planned, but you did it a different way, so I pretend, yeah, that's exactly what I knew you were going to do. Great job, Yeah, what sort of techniques do you guys sort of come up with or use when you're improving, or what do you think about when it happens?
I feel like once you try to understand your character, improv comes a lot easier.
Yeah, it's big. Like, you gotta be able to get inside the head of the person that you're supposed to be portraying.
Write your journals.
Then it's not you speaking, it's their words speaking through you, essentially. Yeah. And you have to that's why I tend to write so much, so that I can really get into the character and understand them and know them, so that I can bring that character to life more effectively. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, is just, I'm not me at the table. I'm bringing someone else out at the table.
Okay. Yeah.
I think in early sessions, it's really helpful to just ask yourself what your character, like in your head, just like, what would this person do? And like, think about things that tie yourself to that character. It's easier to make a character or to portray a character well if there's some pieces of you that you can relate to in that character. It doesn't need to be the whole character. It can be just a tiny piece of it, a hobby that they have, or some kind of thing they do, something that helps you get into character because there's something that relates to you on some level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What, well, I mean, obviously the technique of learning your character and trying to become them, that's what you guys are sort of using and those types of things. How do you practice improv? Do you practice to be better at it? And if you don't practice to be better at it, what exercises can you think of that would make people better at improv? Is there anything you guys do in order to practice that?
I'd be friends with Joey and I just pretend I'm a different person.
Oh my gosh.
I'll play scenarios out in my head before, usually a week between sessions. So I will, I'll play out the scenarios that I think are going to come up in game in head, so that I have like a framework to go off of.
You see all the different
That's
possibilities.
Not improv.
He's Joey's actually Doctor Strange. So before each session, he's like, there is 1 million possibilities, and only one will get me the one I want. But that's what you do. You sort of
yeah,
try to
like
play them in your head.
I play my character in my head a lot.
Do you roll, or you just like pretend the rolls or whatever you think they would be?
I don't think about the rolls.
You just think about what should happen.
Yeah, I think about a positive response and a negative response, and I play out both.
Now, you do that as of actions your character would take, or do you take into account other players' potential decisions?
Oh, I definitely think about what the reactions are going to be.
So you very much are creating the spider web in your head and then following the flow.
Yeah.
Carter?
I listen to music that my character would listen to. I
Playlists.
make a Spotify playlist. Usually whenever we start a new campaign, I usually fill it out with songs I think they would listen to, or just songs that sound like them. There's two. Like when I make a playlist, there's songs that I think as a person, this person would probably enjoy this song, or this song has something that like relates to this person, like vibe wise.
Yeah. Playlists are big.
Yeah, that's a good one. So, what I do is I mostly do it alone. But I will.
We don't need to know about that.
either if I'm usually it's if I'm in the car by myself or at home or whatever. But I'll see myself in the mirror as I'm talking about or thinking about things for the game, and I'll be coming up with NPCs or know that you guys are meeting with an NPC soon. And I will try to talk as that NPC out loud and try to hear what they would sound like talking to you. And I'll try to decide, like, okay, Rara's going to say something stupid. How does this character react to something like that? Or Moss is going to blurt out something really autistic, like what? Or Keith is going to be like, you're scum, whatever it is, and I'll try to react to what that would sound like and try to hear, like Mithros for a long time. I kept trying to figure out what I wanted him to sound like or be like, and
We
at
just
one
wanted
point,
him to be quiet.
oh my god, like in the very beginning when I was thinking about Mithros, I wanted to, hello, it's nice to meet you. And then I was like, this guy can't
geriatric.
be. Yeah, I was like, this guy can't be fucking frail. He can't be, he was an adventurer, So I was like, hi, I'm Mithros, and I was like, well, that guy sounds fucking. He doesn't sound jovial. He sounds like a prime time in his young voice, So for a while, I sort of tried to figure out what I wanted, and then I settled on the whole, yeah, I think you're doing pretty great. Like, I think that works because he's sort of like he's getting older, but he's happy, like a sort of combined like the old guy, but the like stoner. And I wanted to just like make those two things mesh, But anyway, I mean, that's techniques and practicing improv, and hopefully that stuff kind of helps you guys.
Finding a voice.
But we want to know your guys' tips about improv or your stories about improv.
Put them in the comments.
Tell us about your experiences with improv and how they went for you, or what you do for preparation and all those things. And we'll if it's good, we'll feature it on a future episode.
And we've got a pre-recorded outro now, right?
We do, so we don't have to do anything.
Fantastic.
So thank you guys so much. We will see you again next week for OND DND. I have been Hunter, the Forever DM.
I've been... How many teeth do people have normally? One less than that, Joey.
Joey, one less tooth, Joey.
I'm Carter.
All right. Thank you, guys.
That was a callback. I did it at the beginning and the one that we're never going to see.
Hey there, dipshits. It's me, Joey, a.k.a. Slooty Mage.
I'm Hunter, voice of Hunter Taylor.
And I'm Carter, Eagle.
We're
Older and Dumber.
Every Friday, we drop wisdom, humor, and a whole lot of nonsense. You won't want to miss it.
Become a patron today for as low as $5 a month. Get early access to all our episodes and exclusive behind-the-scenes looks at all the things we're doing and May's super secret editing notes.
Shout out to all our awesome dipshits. Your support really helps keep this madness going.
Join the crew. Be a dipshit. It's an exclusive club, and you're invited.
Go Dipshits mark your calendar every Friday for a dose of older and dumber craziness. See you there.
Fade to black. Now my stand. Fade to black.